First thing I'm going to address this morning is violence directed at Americans. The night that the FBI and the ATF dumped flares all over my home, east of Conroe, Texas, up north of the Intercontinental Airport, the night they flew over my home with their Britain Defender and their little Waco helicopter and dumped flares all over my house, trying to burn my family home down, was a moment in my life that I will never forget. You see, ladies and gentlemen, when the ATF and the FBI dumped flares all over my home, it woke up my whole family. They tried to burn our house down, Donald Trump. Maybe the FBI and the ATF should fly over your house, Donald Trump, and dump a bunch of white phosphorus flares on you and your family. Would you find that humorous, Christopher Wray? How about you, Jeff Sessions? And, I don't know, let's ask all the Trump supporters. Should we fly over the Trump residence, or the Bush residence, or the Obama residence, or the Clinton residence, and drop white phosphorus flares all over the house? So when people want to discuss the massive corruption in the United States that is ripping this country apart, they better understand one thing, that when the FBI uses aircraft to try to burn my home down, they got a problem. Now that happened somewhere in 1993 or 1994, and it was the following morning, within just a few hours, discussed with the sheriff of Montgomery County, Texas, in a packed courtroom at the Montgomery County Commissioner's Court. Guy Williams was leaning up against the wall. I was at the podium, and all of the commissioners and Judge Barb Sadler was sitting up there on the bench. This happened, folks. You see, when they want to intimidate and silence and threaten and try to burn down the family home of a dissident, they use the Britain Defender Fleer aircraft that they used at Waco, and probably one of the same helicopters, in the middle of the night with white phosphorus flares. Now, why would they do that to a guy like me? Well, let's see. We had Khashoggi Ghebbanifar, Bud McFarland, Oliver North, Richard Secord, Admiral Poindexter, Bill Casey, George Bush Sr., Ronald Reagan, and the whole Gene Hoffenfuss, Roland Carnaby, Michael Atkinson, Triad International, Triad AK, Triad America, working right out of Lamar Terrace. Lamar Terrace, all around the Galleria and the Houstonian Estates in uptown Houston. Why would they try to burn my home down? Well, let's see. Many hundreds of billions, trillions have been stolen and looted out of the American economy by people like douchebag bank there, Deutsche Bank. And not just Deutsche. It's WAMU, Wells Fargo, Citibank, Goldman Sachs, Western Banks of John McCone, the director of the FBI's, the CIA. That John McCone, the director of the CIA. All out of Houston. Isn't this fascinating? They were running Charlie Wilson's War and Iran-Contra and patty cake with Manuel Noriega and Ferdinand and Imelda Marcos right out of Lamar Terrace. Right out of where the Houstonian and the Galleria and Interfin, the Interfin Plaza there at the Four Leaf Condominiums, the twin red 40-story condos just on the west side of the Interfin Plaza between Interfin and Memorial, where I worked for years. I worked there for years. Christopher Wray, Jeff Sessions, I worked in Uptown Houston for years. And I'm the guy that blew the whistle on the giant, gargantuan, mega, billions upon billions upon billions were robbed from the U.S. banking and savings and loan system. And HUD and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and the Farmers Home Administration, and we can just go on and on and on through the pension funds. The pension funds have been massively robbed by the gangster banksters. And it was all going down right there in George Poppy, Big H. Bush's living room on the 26th floor of the Houstonian Estates. I happened to build it. I was there. You see, ladies and gentlemen, when you look into the Houston Chronicle and the Houston Post and the Conroe Courier and all the ABC, NBC, CBS, and FOX, Fox channels in Houston, Texas, you'll discover that the giant, mega, massive looting of U.S. banks and savings and loans went down in Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. Oh, and Conroe up at Montgomery County. Nelda Luce Radabau Blair, one of CNN, Ted Turner's big news analysts there, the legal news analyst for CNN, Nelda Luce Radabau Blair. She was a pioneer for W. And Nelda knows me personally, don't you, Nelda? You were supposed to be working for my law firm, Nelda. You were supposed to be representing me, not the American Title Insurance Company and not the Western banks. You see, Nelda, you can't hide anymore. And neither can Tim Herron, Reuben Hope, or Michael Mays. This giant, massive, mega looting of the U.S. banking system, like what Justin Kennedy and Deutsche Bank have been involved in, Donald Trump, the too big to fail bankster gangsters. Well, maybe it's because they got too many pals on the Supreme Court. Maybe the bankster gangster slobs got too many friends on the federal bench in the federal district courts and in the federal appellate courts. And maybe people like Mr. Comey and Mr. Mueller and Mr. Holder and Miss Lynch and Ed Meese and John Ashcroft and Alberto Gonzalez and Janet Reno, maybe you people are too damn interested in protecting your bankster gangster pals that finance all the big political parties and politicians. Who do you think rigs U.S. elections, Christopher Wray? Well, that would be your gangster banksters, sir. And everybody in America knows it. The gangster banksters. So we want to, not be violent against Americans. Well, let's explain why they tried to burn my home down with that Britain Defender, the FLIR aircraft that the FBI operates. They tried to burn my home down. And the Commissioner's Court of Montgomery County, Texas, received the complaint within hours. And just by the way, it was the same plane that had been buzzing my home for months. And that's from my old U.S. Customs Drug Interdiction Enforcement pals there next door. They lived right next door to me, Tom and Candy Williams. That plane that kept buzzing my home, that my whole family knows about, that was that Britain Defender they used at Waco. That'll make sense for everybody. So yeah, let's get that FLIR aircraft and a helicopter and let's start dropping incendiary flares on, Jeff Sessions' house. Let's try Christopher Wray's home. Or maybe, Mike Pence. How about we drop incendiary flares all over Mike Pence's house? And the list could just go on and on and on. Let's drop flares all over the U.S. Supreme Court building. How about that? That'd be, oh wow, that'd be something, wouldn't it? Folks, I don't think I need to say much more. Look for the links below. And remember one thing. They rigged this giant swamp with trillions upon trillions of reserve notes, because everybody knows they're not dollars. They rigged the whole system with reserve notes that they've stolen by the trillions from the banking system and the mortgage finance system and the pension system and every other account that they've been able to rob. Like the USAID, that's the U.S. Agricultural and Industrial Development Bank, just like the Arkansas Industrial Development Bank. They robbed it just like Bill Clinton did in Arkansas. Ain't that fascinating, Hillary? And Hillary Clinton and Bill and Obama and all these powerful politicians that are taking huge speaking fees from the gangster banksters, shame on you. Because you people are just as bad as Deutsche Bank and the Kennedys. How about that, Barack Obama? Ain't that something? How about that, George Bush, Poppy, Big H, W? Yeah. Lamar Terrace, the triad, right there in Houston, Texas. The triad of Khashoggi. And up in Salt Lake City, too, by the way. That'll make sense to my family. Up there in Salt Lake and Utah counties. All around. Rocky, hey, Rocky Anderson, how's it going, Rocky? Rocky knows me. And Ann Smith Pellegrino and Lyle Neville and Matt Widener and a whole bunch of other lawyers in this country know me, too. Where in the flying hell are all these looted trillions, Mr. Donald Trump? Folks, we're going to leave it right there. And as always, let me throw this one in here, the last little piece. This Ortiz woman, this 28-year-old social democrat from New York, you know, she espouses supporting working class families. That resonates with me, young lady. When you voiced your support for working class Americans, you got my attention. So anybody that is interested in listening to what this young woman has to say, I'd suggest you shut your mouths and listen to her. Because if she supports working class American families as much as I do, she just might be the cure for the cancer that's created this frickin' damn swamp and sewer. I think I'll leave it right there. Hasta la vista. God bless, and you betcha we're coming back.